Firstly, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for joining us on this video. We spoke about how important it is for you to answer the questions from the fans, and you specifically said you want a question from the fans. A little bit like we did last year, but we're back here right in front of your fireplace, the popular demand to have the video here. But we're here, back in EFL League 2. I suppose, firstly, what's your thoughts on the season so far and how we've been getting on?
I think we've done really well. You know, we've got 23 points from 15 games, Alec. And I think it's probably better than most people expected. So yeah, we're happy where we sat at the moment, yeah.
It's obviously been a great start of the season, especially at home, and the supporters have been right behind us. And I know you sit directly opposite the northwest corner and you see the banners and the flags and the atmosphere, and you must be so pleased with what's been created at the Vic.
Yes, I think the fans have been, you know, the 12th man. It's the old cliche that everybody uses, but they've really been noisy this year, and I think it has become a bit of a fortress.
When we sat down this time last year, you said it'd be a dream come true to get promoted, and I suppose when you look back at when you first took over the club 3 years ago, is it where you kind of thought it would be as it is now?
I think so. I think when we sat down last year, I mentioned, you know, we were on track with a lot of stuff, and we were on track off the field, cutting the losses, etc. But I think one thing that was missing at that time was promotion, and we've got that now. So yes, we'll be bang on.
We've asked for questions from the fans. We'll go to them straight away. And one of the big questions around the whole club and yourself was kind of what does the future hold for the club, and how far do you see yourself taking on Hartlepool United?
I think, as I've said before, you know, I think it's a lot happens. What happens off the field, sort of investment that comes into the club, and the stadium development. So I mean, I don't think there's any sort of guidelines what we've got or anything, but there's a lot of potential for the club, and we would like to fulfil it.
It's not just on the pitch as well, is it, where we seem to be progressing so well off the pitch. When you look at the commercial side, you mentioned the stadium, the community foundation. There's so many different strands of the club that continue to succeed.
Yes, I think we're planning on getting the academy back. I think that's really important, and a lot of stuff's gone on off the field. That's you know, the people like Rose and Steve brought on, and we're definitely heading in the right direction. You
mentioned Rose and Stephen there, and I suppose that's a big part of the football club, getting the right people in the right positions, and we've recently announced Lee Rust and Adrian Bevington coming in, and everything's kind of coming together and putting the right pieces in the puzzle.
Yes, I'm very confident. I'm very comfortable where we are at the moment. As we all know, the changes had to be made when I went in there, and we made those changes slowly but surely, and yes, I think we're getting there.
Back to the questions from the fans then, and they're always kind of wondering about the club, the future, and the one thing was about the finances really. How much is the club really financially sustainable at the moment?
I think it's been well documented. You know, that year on year we've got the losses. When we went in there, we were losing a lot of money, and we're nowhere near that now. So I think, a lot of progress has been made, and we're pretty close to being, you know, self-sustainable.
Was a lot of that, I suppose, kind of do with the restructuring that's kind of gone on inside the club as well?
Definitely. I think there's been a lot of hard work that we've had to do behind the scenes, but it had to be done. But I like to think we're somewhere near now.
Just in terms of obviously that restructure now, how do you see the club really at the moment to kind of what you picked up 3 years ago? Because it must be such a contrast.
Definitely, and I think, as I said before, we're a million miles away from where we were three and a half years ago. You know, the losses are right down. We're back in the league, so a lot of sponsorships come in on the back of being in the league, and we're in a healthy position now.
Just in terms of the finances and investments you spoke about in the club and all that comes with being in the EFL, a lot of fans obviously wondering, are there really any plans on the horizon for more investment to come into Hartlepool United?
Possibly. I've said it before, you know, from day one, we've been looking for investment coming into the club, because as I've said before, it depends on how far up the pyramid you want to get to. And once you get to a certain level, then you need to bring money into the club. So we've always been open to investment, but as I've said before, that it needs to be the right investment and right people, more importantly, coming into the club.
Right investment, right people, and they want to come to the club because Hartlepool United suddenly is this hugely attractive prospect, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. I mean, you've always got people, sort of sniffing around in football clubs wanting to put money, and I don't need to tell the fans, what a bad experience they've had in some investment recently. So I think when I say recently, by the way, I mean before myself. So yeah, it's right people and right investment and a long future of the club, securing the future, long future of the club.
And I know I mentioned obviously it being an attractive prospect, but it's got so much potential as the only club in the town in an AFL club, League Two, doing very well in League Two. Obviously, I must say, a lot of potential for anyone really to come in.
There's and to build on what we've already got in place over the last 3.5 years. But that's, as I keep saying, it needs to be the right people, and it's got to be right for the football club, because we don't want to undo what we've done in the past 3.5 years.
Back to the fans' questions then, and we talk about the future and what's coming up, and a lot of the questions were surrounded around, how are the plans at the moment for ground expansion? I feel like we've spoke about it quite a while, and obviously the MOU with the council, and this is something you mentioned in your programme, it's that something you want to really get going quite quickly, because you were coming a little bit frustrated with it as well.
Yeah, I think it's back in June and we signed the MOU. And since then it's been a little bit slow, if I've been honest. But I think we had a meeting with the council a few weeks ago, and I think it seems to be back on track. So now deadlines have been put down, where we've got to reach certain targets, and certain work has got to be done by those deadlines. And hopefully we'll all stick to them and make some real progress.
How exciting is it for the football club and obviously the town as well?
It's very exciting for the football club and for myself, but I think we just got to be careful. Fans have heard it all before, so I'm always trying to manage people's expectations, and so it's New Year will tell where we're going to be, from development of the football ground.
You mentioned obviously the development, and then obviously the key part of that is the work the club does with the council, and obviously continuing that strong relationship that we do have, but obviously making sure that we do get the work done.
Yes, I think it's look, I've said it before, we all know, there's procedures that the council have to go through, and they've got a protocol that they have to go through, that it takes time, but I think it's, we've done enough talking now for over 2.5 years, and it's time for action really.
Looking at the questions then, you mentioned it earlier on, another big question was there any plans at the moment to revisit the youth system at Hartlepool?
Definitely, I think a lot of work's already been done on the academy. We plan to bring the academy back in. We had to, unfortunately, do away with it when we were in National League. But yes, the plan is definitely bring the academy back, because we all know, that brings the community together, brings the youth sides together, and then it brings you future players, future stars of the future.
How important is that to you?
That's very important for a League Two club, because as Brad Young's just proved, that one, it gives you a success story for the town, and two, you get financially rewarded, which helps you keep the club ticking over.
Obviously something exciting that we can look forward to. A lot going on at the football club at the moment. Obviously the club released a statement a few weeks ago regarding kind of match day and ticketing abuse going on. What's, I suppose, your kind of thoughts behind that really?
Well, I've mentioned it before, that when I went in there, I was made aware by the genuine fans there's been abuse going on, and with the ticketing and certain things not being paid for, and all that sort of thing. But I think we've got to the bottom of it now, with people like Lee Rust and Steve and Rose getting on top of it, and I think the genuine fans are generally upset as well, because the genuine fans, you don't want to see this happen. And as I've said before, people who bought season tickets last year in COVID, they're the genuine fans for me, because they didn't even know if they were going to watch a match or not, and they still bought season tickets. So how is it fair on those people when people are getting through on a Saturday without paying?
You mentioned that quite a lot actually, and it seems like how important it is to you that when you mention Pils fans paying their hard-earned money to invest in the club, buy their season tickets, and obviously it's a zero tolerance policy, that obviously these people who are abusing the ticketing system, but also emphasising how important the fans are to continue to pay their money in the club.
Well, fans that are paying the money, they're the fans that are volunteers there, who giving up their time to help the club, and they're saving the club money. And then you've got other people who are abusing the system, so it's just not right, full stop.
Back to the questions, and I suppose kind of the obvious one that kind of fans may be waiting for us to get to, it is the one on everyone's mind, is kind of explain to us really what happened in the last few weeks with Stockport County and Dave Chandler, who obviously now is their first team manager.
Well, I don't really want to get too much into it, but I do understand that fans are expecting some sort of explanation what's going on. So I think, we got a phone call. Lee Russ got a phone call on Friday before last, to say that it's from his agent to say that Dave Stockport are interested in Dave. Whether they've been speaking to him, we don't know, but I'm convinced that the deal was done by that time anyway. And the next thing was that I spoke to Dave on a Sunday morning after the Leyton Orient game, and I asked him, is his mind made up? And he said no, he was torn. He was in two minds whether he wanted to go, but they made him an offer really he can't turn down. So I think his mind was made up by that time, and we all know what happened after that.
So what you really, I suppose, kind of trying to tell us, it's your view is that that's not the way that things probably should have been handled.
A couple of people there haven't done themselves any what's the word I'm looking for, Alex? they haven't done themselves any favours by the way they behaved, and really that's about as much as I want to say on that.
It must be disappointing though, and not just with Stockport, and I suppose kind of how you must feel obviously with Dave, and kind of what was kind of building at the football club as well. Yeah,
we were building something special, we all thought. The fans certainly bought into that and believed into that, and so did we. So we definitely, everybody thought we were building something special, and all of a sudden this phone call comes out of the blue, and bang, and everything sort of falls apart for a few days.
I know you said you spoke to Dave and he was 50-50, but in the end, were you expecting Dave to move on?
Initially I wasn't, no. When you've just signed a 3-year contract, 6 weeks ago, so you don't expect somebody to move, and they've just telling us that they're going to move their family up here, and it's a long-term project, and 110% committed behind the project, so you don't expect somebody to then walk away from that contract 6 weeks later.
A big question, and from the fans kind of as well, with Dave moving on, is will we get some sort of compensation from Dave leaving?
Yes, there was I think that was one of the things that we took so long to get the contract done. There was figures in there for compensation and different levels. I think the fans, it's important to let the fans know as well, different levels linked to different leagues. So we have got compensation, and that's been paid, so that's fine. Was
that one of the reasons the contract talks with Dave, I suppose, took so long to make sure that was one of the key parts in it?
I believe so. I think the reason that the contract took sort of 3.5 months to agree and sign up was one of the reasons, and that's why we had an issue where we set a certain budget, which I believed, and I still do, that it was good enough to get us into the playoffs at the very least, and Dave agreed to that. And because the contracts got delayed and it went on for 2-3 months, I wasn't happy with that. So I was, on the back of that, we decided to hold some of the money back, that we can then keep for the January window, because at that time, if I'm being honest, I wasn't sure whether Dave was going to be with us or not, because I was getting stories that he's been talking to other clubs. That's rightly or wrongly, but that was my information at the time.
The budget, I suppose, that the new manager were getting in January, was that something I suppose you already kind of agreed with Dave, and you mentioned it was something you kind of put to Dave, and he was happy with it in terms of pushing for the playoffs?
There's no question about that. I think the budget was definitely healthy. The budget was definitely to get us right up there. And Morecambe, the money we've already spent. I was speaking to one of the Morecambe directors, and they went up on that budget, and I believe Cambridge before Morecambe. So our budget is right up there, regardless of what figures the people are throwing out there.
I suppose when you sit in the stand, and I know you're there at every game, do you believe that we're only, I suppose, a few signings away from really pushing on this season?
I think every Hartlepool fan will agree with me when they say, you know, it's only a bit of tweaking in the January window, and obvious one is, you know, getting some more goals into the side. But other than that, we're not too far away, and I think all the Hartlepool fans generally believe that.
A new first team manager on the search. Another role that the club is obviously advertising at the moment is head of recruitment. What's the reason behind the head of recruitment coming in? And I'm guessing it's obviously to help with the progress of the club.
Yes, I mean, that was one thing that we identified now that we're in the EFL, that we need a proper structure to recruit players, do our homework on players, and we're not getting left behind when it comes to transfer windows, because we've never had to do that before, because it was a case of identifying a player and getting it, going and getting it. Now you've got to do it differently because you've got transfer windows. So the idea of bringing somebody into recruitment is set up a proper recruitment structure to give us that little bit of an edge to compete with other clubs in this league, or the league above.
I know it kind of says what the role will be on the team, but what will specifically they be doing? I'm guessing working with the manager, the playing staff, and speaking closely to you, and obviously Lee and Adrian as well.
Yes, I think it's just all about doing your homework on the players that they identify that we need in certain positions, and then getting together all the data that they need, and then putting a case forward for that particular player, to whether it's to the manager, whether it's to us, and we make a decision based on that information.
So head of recruitment on the way at Hartlepool United, and I suppose the big question on every fan's lips is who's the next manager going to be? They're all looking at the betting odds and the rumours flying around, but how is the progress in having a new manager come?
Well, as always, you know, there's a lot of guesswork goes on, and bookies changing the odds on a daily basis. But yeah, there's a lot of names being mentioned, and you know, high profile names such as Ravanelli, and I'm only mentioning that because it's already been put out there, but there's a lot of other big names as well. But we'll just take our time and make a decision amongst ourselves what we feel is the best fit for this football club.
You spoke to Ravanelli?
No, I haven't spoken to Ravanelli, no.
I think one of the key messages that I know you've really said as well is that despite the fact we're ongoing looking for a manager, how much at the moment you're really backing Tony Sweeney, and how impressed you are with what he's doing as well.
Well, Tony Sweeney's got, you know, the Hartlepool United Football Club, you know, in his heart, and he will give it 110% every time he's asked to step up, and which is exactly what he done last time, and he's doing so now. And I think, yeah, we're in good hands. So that's a luxury that a lot of people don't have, and we have, so we can take our time to appoint a new manager. Take
your time to appoint a new manager. What is it specifically that you look for in?
Excuse me. Sorry.
What would you specifically look for in a new manager to take this club forward?
Somebody who knows the level, somebody who's played at this level, and I think that's so important. And I think I've said that before. So it's important, and at the same time, bearing in mind, you know, the modern coaching methods and all these things that'll help us make a decision. And it is going to be a tough decision.
And we talked about earlier on, like commercially, how exciting and attractive the football club is for sponsors, but it's an attractive football club. You know, flying in League One, at League Two at the moment, obviously looking towards the playoffs in League One maybe, and an exciting opportunity for someone to come in and continue.
It's a very attractive football club. I think the amount of time the away managers have praised our fans and praised the club, and it is a traditional old football club, and that's a big attraction for a lot of managers. So that's why we've had a lot of interest.
Tony Sweeney obviously said in his one of his first interviews when he became interim manager that it's obviously such a critical appointment, probably more important than the last time around, and I'm guessing that's why you're happy to take your time and make sure you get it right.
Well, we're going to take our time, but I'm not sure I agree with Tony 100% on that one, because last time it was getting out of the league, so that was just as critical, and now it's just as critical staying in the league. So it is, yes, it is an important appointment, and we'll just take our time, and hopefully we'll get it right.
That's, I suppose, the bulk of the fans' questions, and before we wrap up, is there anything I suppose you'd like to add to the fans or anything?
No, just carry on supporting your team, and I know, you know, sometimes it looks different from the outside, but we can't really come out and making statements every other week, and I know fans want to know what's going on inside the club, but unfortunately we're not in a position to do that every other week. But like I said before, I'll try to keep them informed, and that's the idea of this interview, and you know, keep them up to speed, up to date with what's going on at their club.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.